set.
Okay, John knows we're on.
No.
You have to close the YouTube so it doesn't.
Yep, okay. John, we're ready.
Very good, thank you.
Hi, John. We'll call the meeting to order. We have established a quorum. The first order of business is the approval of the March 2025 minutes. If everyone has had a chance to review the minutes, I'll accept a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second? Okay. Do I have any corrections or comments? Hearing none, take a vote to approve the minutes. Aye.
Aye.
Hey, Ramona, say aye.
Aye. Sorry, I was just reading.
I know. Alrighty. Next, review is for the financial reports. Talk to us.
April, balance sheet, we have more money in the bank than we've had in quite
That's good news.
Yeah, and you'll see on the inventory that they've zeroed out the buildings that we've sold. So that shows quite a reduction from last year in our, the value of our inventory.
Yeah.
As we'll, and then we'll start building it back up again. As we do repairs and spend money on the buildings. We were able to prepay our insurance this year.
That's nice.
So, we won't have to finance that or make monthly payments. What else? Everything else is kind of typical, shows, what we have spent and left to spend in our, grants. And for the profit and loss, we'll go to, it shows the year to date, but then also the month, this tiny little written. This last page has April. You can read it, I can't.
I'll try to wait for my next meeting, sorry.
Well, it's I'm just trying to, because
It won't fit
Having to
one
fit
way
on
or the
page.
other, so.
At this, yeah.
it just shows the income, so the income for the month it shows it as almost 1.8 million. But we didn't actually get all of that money, that just represents when we sold the buildings, all of the grants that went into it. So the buildings are like valued at like 800,000, but then they're not paying that much, and but that's how it shows on the record. And what else? All the typical operating expenses. Which about 28,000 this month. And we are ending in the black for the month and the year. So
When does the fiscal year end?
June 30th.
June 30th, right, you said. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Couple more. So next year it's not going to look as good because we won't be selling.
That's what keeps, we're
Yeah.
defining that as the
Yeah.
2-year cycle.
Right.
Yep. Okay. I have a motion to approve the financial reports for March. And we approve the financial reports for March. Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Carries. Okay, let's jump down to, or we gotta vote. Property acquisition, the city council resolutions to transfer property.
That's point 6 on the agenda.
Yes.
So as you can see, I included in your package the resolutions that were passed at recent city council meetings to transfer property to us.
You saw that meeting, right?
Yes.
So the questions that came up from,
Regarding the
Council.
dollar properties.
well, yeah,
Oh,
about that. And I guess there's been some questions from constituents about why are we selling these properties just to the land bank, which is not, it's not true. It's not just the land bank. But, you know, what we're trying to, I think, communicate to the public, well, at least I am, is that, and Torrance's too, that it's not easy to purchase these properties. These properties require a lot of funds in order to restore them and stabilize them, which, you know, the land bank is in a position to do, right? In order to revitalize these neighborhoods. So it got a little tricky.
mhm.
And that's why we had to split it up. We couldn't vote for both resolutions.
But it was, I think Torrance handled it well too.
Yes, he did.
And the fact that, you know, it's land bank, but it's also any entity who has that much money to put towards it. You have to have that kind of money.
You do.
And I don't care who you are, what organization you represent, you can't do it without that kind of
Right.
money.
I mean, I thought it was interesting to hear, what corporate counsel said about why the land bank being established by the city and, addressing those, the issues of vacancy and the upside down
Right.
economics of these buildings, which are preventing anybody from developing. And yeah, it's not all the vacant buildings that the city's giving the land bank, it's in the target area, and it's not all the buildings in the target area, and it's the first time in like 6 years that we're even getting any property. But that the land bank has, as like a semi-governmental organization, has specific tools that we can use to address the issues of, doing the remediation,
Exactly.
spending a lot more money than the buildings are actually
A
valued
lot
at.
more money that any, like, let's say it was a private building owner, or even for that matter, a developer, they have the funds to actually do that, the remediation at the end of the day and stabilize the building, right? I don't think so.
Well, and then also, it's not like we're keeping these buildings either. I mean, the whole purpose
No,
is to
you're not.
resell them, to eliminate the obstacles, whether we're doing just remediation or stabilization or doing a full-scale rehab, or assembling properties for another developer, like what we did with Grubco, what we've done with Habitat to take those on. But we're not, the whole point is that we're not ever gonna be the end users of the property or the end owners.
Right.
We're just eliminating the barriers to redevelopment and hopefully being able to do it in a way that makes them more affordable than if it was just on the open market.
Yes.
I think some of the feedback too was actually frustration that only the land bank is eligible for certain funding. I think, like, at the end of, I don't know, I'm sorry, I stepped out for a minute, but I think some of the frustration was, why isn't like Joe on the street eligible
Right.
for land bank initiative funding? And there was a recognition that no one in this room can solve that, but I understand the frustration, so.
Right, but the funding is just to, again, eliminate those
Agreed,
barriers.
but right.
Not to like make it so that other people can't
No,
do it.
right.
Oh, no.
Right.
But
And
it's-
that's, right.
Yeah,
So-
And then you have some hardheads who, no matter how many times you go over this educationally, still have that mindset that this is unfair
Right.
and, it's
well,
really
yeah,
hard to
other
crack that.
state subsidies that we access, other people, whether they're a for-profit corporation or a not-for-profit, can access those other programmatic funding, but not just a random individual on the street can't do that.
Right. Private home.
That's just how government funding works, or any funding.
Right, and I think that
Yeah.
is frustrating though. I mean, I
Yeah.
think what we're seeing, and it was the same as the person on Monday, I think that is frustrating, right? I can't buy a house. Why aren't these things available to me too? I'm a good person, and she seems like she is actually a good, very good person, right? But
Right. Which we've done as well, though, like we've sold to individuals, that are able to finance it,
Right, but I mean, the fact is, you've also adopted the disposition
Right.
policy. And, that really does help a
A
lot
lot,
these now,
Mhm.
so. It's what it is.
Yeah, we just have to keep battling back and, trying to get as many properties on, but then they're coming up with Well, the cost, oh my God, the cost.
Right, that's how we started this today.
Yeah, I mean,
Even, you know, everyone's finding out on the back end.
Right.
Like-
But even with the funding, let me say, like, it's very hard to make these projects work, even with hundreds of thousands of dollars of funding. It still doesn't really work, you know, or just barely, so.
And no matter how, because it's so beyond the realm of possibility for so many people, that these numbers mean nothing. When you say $700,000, you might as well be saying $7 million or $7,000. It's just, I don't know what you're talking about. And you try, well, you always explain every time, this is how much it costs, this is how much this costs, this is how much this costs, this is why we come with this number. And it's still just not enough.
I mean, yeah, we do set up these programs to make it, you know, like our house to home program, doing, making it accessible to people that don't have capital, you know, private wealth to invest, that we're gonna do that, and then, you know, and then you can buy this fully renovated home.
Is there a desire by community members to take on the project and, you know, those who can access funding, like, do we have like data to show that that's a desire? Like, community members?
There's a
I think
desire.
there's
There
a
is.
desire, but there's
There's
not
no
access
money.
to
Not an
capital.
access to capital.
Yeah.
Is
I think
it
that-
a lack of awareness?
No, I think the
Or they just
desire
don't
is
have
that they believe that the price will be dramatically reduced if they
Ah.
take on the project.
Okay.
And in fact, I think most of us would argue the opposite,
Right.
is that
Okay.
it probably costs more to renovate a building in Newburgh.
Right, we know that.
Especially the kinds we have, that's not right, that's
Right, like,
not-
we're talking about
yeah.
buildings without a roof, and,
Yeah,
you know,
right, but
a
it's
lot of-
somehow, right, if I got this for $1, then it would only cost me $100,000.
Right.
And then my whole house would only cost $100,000.
Right.
But in
That's-
fact, it's $800,000 and you're missing that, like,
Right.
that disconnect is
Yeah, it's a
there.
little hard to explain that,
Right.
but, you know.
Yeah, I bought a house that was like 3 units, fully occupied, people were living there, it was totally fine, and I still put like
Still put-
150,000 into it over, you know, a couple years, but it's, yeah.
Well, I get
They're
it.
all money.
Is there, like, can we do something in the community? And I don't know, I'm just asking, like, something to educate folks and let them know, like, you know, is it worth it?
Jen and Lisa come once a year to do a presentation,
Okay.
and that's, you know, the time that we try to explain it or communicate.
But that's such a narrow, it's whoever happens to be sitting in the audience
Right.
and the city
That's
council
true.
who's heard it year after year
Right.
after year. And it's kind of hard to get a group together who really want to hear this, to sit down and we do this, we take that dog and pony show on the road, we could.
I mean, we try to do that with, like, you know, we did these walking tours this year. But it would be good to do more of that kind of thing, and do more kind of open house, and so people really see, like, this is what we're talking about, yeah.
I mean, for people who want to, like, self-perform the rehab of the building, there are tools, but I think that's like, you run up against certain barriers, right? Like, if you wanna get like what is it, FHA loan?
The 203K
Yeah.
loans, right.
But it's just for a single family, right? You can't do 2 family, 3 family. So in Newburgh, because a lot of the housing stock is not single family, especially in the downtown district, I think it just becomes, and it also becomes an issue for people who are looking for home repair as well, right? Unless the program is geared towards, you know, more than 1 family. So it is kind of a tricky thing to do, and even if you could find all the financing, you gotta, it's work to get all that, to manage a project and to pay for the place that you're living. And I think it's, people, like, it is hard for people to understand, because they don't actually know what it looks like from start to finish. And I don't even, because I couldn't do it, you know?
Right.
I don't know most people who couldn't, unless you build for a living.
Yes, yes. But then you need your specific people, your asbestos people, your lead people. GCs aren't qualified for that.
Well, this isn't unique to Newburgh. This
Right,
is, you know, it's a national thing. This is a microcosm of the place in a lot of ways, and cost to build is insane.
Yeah.
That's just true everywhere, fortunately.
Yeah.
But the city does give, I mean, you guys market properties all the time, and if someone wants to come and buy something under market, it's certainly doable. But, yeah,
So we have two resolutions that the city passed, one, for whoever's watching. One is, 9 properties that are being transferred for the assessed value of the properties. And that is different from what we've done in the past, where all the properties we got would be for $1 because of the changes in, real property law, because of the Supreme Court decision that was made on a national level, and then the changes in state law, so that for tax foreclosed properties, there has to be, what do you call it, surplus value has to be, if the person who, was foreclosed upon asks for surplus value after everybody is paid off, that has to be paid to them. And so we're purchasing these 9 properties, for the assessed value according to the 2024 assessments. Should read off what the properties are.
I think the addresses,
So it's not, 90 Gidney, 126 3rd, 15 South Johnston, 191 South Street, 41 Lander Street, 43 Lander Street, 231 First, 68 Campbell, and 61 Campbell. And the majority of these are actually vacant lots or buildings that need to be demolished.
I'll add too that there's a plan on the back end for the city. So each of the value paid by the land bank won't go into the general fund. It can't. It goes into a surplus account for each of them. The previous owner has 3 years from some date, I'm not aware, but from a specific date to ask for that surplus funds back. In these cases, for the land bank properties specifically, any unclaimed surplus funds will go into a secondary fund that will be saved for the land bank in future years. I'm not getting the words out right, to reduce the burden of purchasing at assessed value in the future. So, because it's basically, a self-insurance fund over those claiming of surplus properties. So while there'll clearly be a couple years where we'll have to ask for funds for these, we expect that in year 3 and going forward, we could get into a system where it actually balances itself out for the most part.
Do you hear that, John?
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I do have a couple, just out of curiosity, mostly, if anybody knows, and we could talk about it another time if necessary, but did these properties go through an auction at all first, or have they been set aside?
No.
Okay. And you're paying assessed value, but do you know if there is in fact surplus? Is that assessed value greater than what's owed?
Yes, in all instances. And one other important thing about assessed value is we assess at 100%, and we do a full reval every 5 years and a piecemeal, I don't know what the thing, in between that it's reassessed too. So the attorneys thought that our assessed values especially are reasonable as a market value.
You're lucky. Most are not.
I'm not sure anyone would call it lucky except for this one instance, but yes.
Yeah. I really like the part about them putting it towards, your benefit in the future too, the unclaimed surplus. That's great.
Yeah, that was a big relief to hear.
You should talk about, are you coming next week? You should talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I think they're calling it a hold harmless fund. It just
Yes,
popped into
they
my
did say
head,
that,
yes,
yeah.
okay,
Hold
there we go.
harmless.
The word came.
Yeah, I remember that being said. So then there's that resolution that was passed on, April 14th.
Yep.
And then they separated out, the city council did a separate resolution for 4 properties that we are going to receive from them for $1 because they were acquired by the city by other means than tax foreclosure.
And they are,
That is 161 Lander, 11 South Miller, 47 Lutheran, and 302 Grand Street. And all but 11 South Miller are vacant lots.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept.
I guess a motion to, like a resolution for the land bank to acquire these properties.
You want them individually or all together? Do you want two resolutions?
I
or
guess
one
two,
resolution?
just in case we do the transactions separately.
So the first one will be on the 90 Bidney to 61 Campbell Street lots and buildings.
So I'll take a stab. I make a motion for the city, or for the land bank to acquire from the city 90 Gidney, 126 Third, 15 South Johnson, 191 South Street, 41 Lander, 43 Lander, 231 First, 68 Campbell, 61 Campbell, for a total price of $506,500.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Second group. We'll have a motion to accept acquisition of these buildings. I'll read them off. 161 Lander, 11 South Miller, 47 Lutheran, and 302 Grand.
For $4.
For $4, not each,
So,
collectively. Thank you.
so moved.
Have a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So those, so everyone knows that funding, to acquire the properties is coming through the land bank initiative, and we were awarded the money, so we're just in the process of going through the agreements and with the state, and, once that's, we have access to the funds, we'll do the transactions.
Okay, I have to scoot.
Okay.
I go to the bathroom and then I'm leaving. Carry on.
Oh, it's me, right? I guess
Yeah.
that means it's me. Okay, so now, now we go back to one on the agenda? Just-
Yes, and
okay.
so we don't have a quorum anymore.
We don't, okay.
Yeah, but, there aren't any.
Or do you want to start with Hudson Valley Gives before we do property related?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
So May 21st is Hudson Valley Gives, which is this, one-day fundraising event online that lots of, nonprofits in the area participate in. We've done it in the past. And the idea is that you kind of share our,
Do pretty good
Page.
with it, right?
huh?
We do pretty good with that Hudson Valley Gives,
I mean,
or no?
we haven't done wonderfully. Last year, we did have a matching gift, which helped. And we haven't gotten that this year. What would be great is if people can kind of share our profile, and I link to it on the agenda, but I can send it in a separate email. You can set up your own little mini fundraiser or just share it with people to get friends and family to donate.
Yeah, I'll share.
There's some real heavy hitters on there and that, make a ton of money.
Yeah.
And there's all these like in addition to any kind of matching gift that your own organization can bring, that they organize like the first person to give at, 8:30 a.m. or 8:31, you get an extra gift, or at this time of day, there's like these different little gimmicks to kind of help make more money.
if this word is anything, it is not.
No.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So I will send out reminders, and I hope people can participate in that.
All right, moving on, property related matters, Legacy City Access Program, sales of 136 Lander and 39 South Miller.
Yeah, so on April 23rd, we sold these two homes to first-time home buyers. Both of whom, one lived a few doors down in a former land bank property.
Wasn't she the one that came?
Yes,
Mhm.
right, so she was
Didn't hold it
renting
together,
from.
she barely held it together, which was nice.
What?
She barely held it together
Yeah.
after we voted,
Oh,
it, yeah.
I was really excited.
Yes, very excited. She lives and works in Newburgh, was renting in a former land bank property on Lander. and 39 South Miller, also going to, our contractor's, nephew who worked on building the property, so that's pretty cool, and, it's become an active member in the community. So that is those are the last 2 homes in our 4-home project with Legacy City. We paid off our construction loan. You know, we got our developer fee. We did get an additional, I think it was 30,000 in developer fee because we didn't spend as much of the construction loan as we had thought we would. So there was some extra money there. And yeah, so we're pretty much done with that, and we're now looking to do another round. And we have, I have a little cheat sheet, you know, so we've already, you know, in the last round, we were gonna put some of these buildings that we're gonna do now in that last round, so we have some work already kind of done. So 140 Chambers, 128 Du Bois, 44 South Miller, and then 11 South Miller, which we're gonna acquire now from the city. And then possibly 146 South, although we don't own it. But we were trying to get that back from a purchaser that didn't comply with what they're supposed to do. And 238 First, which we acquired last year. So depending kind of on how the numbers play out and what's possible, those are the buildings that we were planning on developing. So 140 Chambers would be a 3-family. We're currently doing stabilization work there. Prior years, we did asbestos and lead remediation. So similar to what we were talking about, we've already spent like over $400,000 on this building. And it's totally vacant inside with no walls, you know, so like there's still much to be done. And you know, 128 Du Bois, we're also just finishing up stabilization work there, 2nd phase of stabilization work, and there's still a lot more to be done. That would also be a 3-family. We have plans for the 3-family for 140, for 128 Du Bois. We would have, we're working, the architect on developing those plans. 44 South Miller is the building that we've been trying to get stabilized and abated, and we are gonna be putting out a bid probably next week or the week after for an asbestos firm who will oversee the contractor working on the stabilization part.
How have things been working with I know 128 Du Bois was sort of a test and see how things go with the new.
Yeah, that went fine.
Good.
And they're interested in more work.
That's great.
They're asking me about the RFPs that we might have coming out. It went fine. You know, it was a pretty straightforward job.
Seemed like a big crew that was there, so.
Oh, really?
It looks nice. It's
Yeah.
a much more secure site than it was.
Yeah, and
before,
so we're
it's
working on
great.
getting sign-offs from the city. And then, so 44 South Miller, saying we're doing this, we're gonna put out a bid for asbestos work. And that is, you know, as we've discussed in prior meetings, super complicated job. The contractor's crew was getting certified this week in doing asbestos to be able to work with the certified firm.
Is that a gut rehab?
Oh, yeah. It has no roof, it has no pieces of the roof, and then everything is collapsed into the interior, and that's why it's become very complicated, because we have to do the structural work, but everything that's in the inside is considered hot asbestos. So we have to have this, working with our contractor.
Is that the one that's attached to, it's part of that whole row at the
Yes.
end?
Yes.
Okay, I know that.
And we have scaffolding up now, which is kind of
I
helping,
haven't been down that way.
so
I know,
we're
'cause
just
it's
moving
good now, we
towards.
don't need to.
What is it?
No, we
Right.
don't need to go South Miller anymore, because it's fine, it's good, it's like, there's no issues, literally, so it's like.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to do 11 South Miller because that's another one of the, you know, very few remaining.
And those are the last 2,
Yeah.
yes, 44 and 11, it's now the faded senior.
So,
No question.
I haven't stepped foot in 11 South Miller, so.
From the outside, it looks a lot like 39.
Yeah, it looks a
I
lot
think
like
there was a fire.
39, so
There
hopefully
was,
that'll
yes.
be
Oh, that's the one that was, yeah, they
It's a little,
started
there's
a
two
fire. and-
stories next to it.
Yeah, somebody was actually living there, right?
So yeah, I have like very, very preliminary draft budget from CPC, the construction lender. And we're just kind of, and money that we got from the land bank initiative is to do the planning and some of the stabilization on those properties to move it forward.
Is the asbestos certification something that will roll project to project if DC gives approval?
Yeah, so what they're getting, this is Carlos's crew, they're getting certified to be allied trades, restricted handler, meaning they're not doing the asbestos remediation, but they're working where there might be asbestos present. So that's why they actually have to have a certified firm overseeing them, but they have to have that certification to be able to be on site at all. So yes, then they'll be certified, and, you know, we have another project, probably 76 Lander, we're seeing is gonna be a very similar job.
Some
So,
never.
so that's great, yeah, and it was kind of complicated to, like, they don't offer those trainings very, I don't know how many other contractors are really getting that certification.
We have a variance, with this
Right.
New York State Department of Labor to do this work. It will get extended because right now the current one is going to expire in June. And we'll have to do a variance for, the next quest is going to be the project monitor. They're working, working with Rudy. He sent me a bid, adjusting that, ending it, and then we're gonna talk and finalize it.
Yeah, they're really holding our hand through this
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
process.
He's great.
He's great,
Yeah.
yeah, and they said
To
that-
the point too, where sometimes he says, don't even abate it, just, you know, remove all as abate, you know, he'll give you real good factual.
Yeah, and so he wrote the bid that we're gonna,
Oh,
we're gonna
excellent.
put out,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. We've been working closely. And he said he's never done one quite like this because it is in such bad shape.
Yeah. Most people would just demo this building. So that's, yeah, that's Legacy City.
So then land bank initiative funds, we kind of talked about a little on 128, the boys 44/7.
Yeah, so we're wrapping up the stabilization that we were doing in the last round of funding, and some of the last projects, and then we're moving into a new round of funding that we were just approved for. Another 2 million in land bank initiative funding, that's like to work on projects, it's not operating funding. And the, what I applied for was the acquisition, so, you know, over $500,000 for acquisition. Working on the Legacy City, so it's the pre-development planning work for those buildings and some stabilization, including 44 South Miller. And then working on 72, 76, 78 Lander, doing the same pre-development and working on stabilization. We just got plans for stabilization for that, and asbestos testing done, asbestos and lead, of which there is a lot. And then the third project that we're gonna be spending this funding on is the Lander Street lots, which are the 5 lots, 2 of which we're acquiring in this round with the city, 3 that we already own. And we're working on designing a multifamily building there, and as like homeownership, condo situation.
And to Dion's earlier question, I think that will be, I think that's something that hasn't been done in Newburgh, so smaller ownership option, I think it'll be interesting. I don't know whether it'll be great or terrible or
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle, but I think it's new and something to try, right? I don't want a whole house, I can't
Right.
afford a whole house.
So speaking of construction costs, I've been trying to run the numbers, and it's definitely, I'm like, you know, there's a state program, AHOP, which you can get like 200,000 a unit. And there's some, you know, other funding here and there, but you know, it's probably, like I was running, it's gonna be like at least $13.5 million to build this building. So then how do you make those units affordable?
Wow.
How much?
That's like 300,000 a square foot is what,
13 million?
huh?
Did you say 13 million?
Yes.
How much per square foot?
300. Which is what the lender told me, but I think other people think it would be more,
Oh, wow.
I
so.
mean, that seems in line with numbers that other, you know,
with the projects.
Projects.
Right, and the rehabs that we just did, we calculated were about 312 per square foot.
Right.
So, we'll have to obviously value engineer it and see, but
Easier to do with ground up than.
yeah. So yeah, those are the main projects that we're gonna be spending this $2 million on.
That's great.
Excellent. All right, moving on to the mess on Land or Restore New York, and I realize I need to follow up. David was the point person, so maybe I need to figure out who he's communicating with. You're
Yeah.
copied on things that I'm not, if you could.
We
may
have,
an
like an
email.
award letter that
Yeah.
has the person, and I think Jeremy's even spoken to somebody there. Yeah, so we're working, using this land bank initiative money. We're developing architecture and engineering plans. We just got some stabilization plans from the engineer. In order to kind of initiate some repairs. In the meantime, we got asbestos and lead surveys done, and it's full with asbestos, all 3 buildings. And 76 Lander, because of the structural condition it's in, we'll probably, like I was saying, have to do similar thing or have certified. GC is working with a certified asbestos firm. So probably, so I had budgeted $350,000 in stabilization, and a lot of it is probably gonna go to doing asbestos at 76. We'll probably be able to, maybe we'll be able to do asbestos remediation and some stabilization.
Well, that's a good example.
Right.
How much it
Well,
costs.
And again, an eyesore too, right?
Yeah.
It's got these other issues, in that neighborhood where there's a lot of long-time homeowners too, who have been looking at this building too, so.
Right, a lot of people on the block are really excited to see it, being developed.
And then an update on the lot, which would be.
80 Lander,
okay, 80.
is Habitat owned, and they did pass a resolution, to trade with us for 161 Lander, which we're gonna be acquiring from the city. And then also as part of the city acquisitions, we're getting 61 Campbell, which we were gonna add to the,
Is that little corner lot?
it's,
Or it's a
It's in
small,
the back of
for parking, right? You kind of need it for
Yeah.
parking or something.
and possibly a
a little unit.
little cottage.
Cottage.
What's their reason for trading one to?
So 80 Lander is right next to these, for us, it's, obvious that we could use it, and I think Habitat has owned that for a while and it hasn't been able to develop it as easily.
They don't wanna build in the historic district anymore, they think that it's too expensive for them.
But they're taking
So,
161.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's an easier, I think
Fair
it's an
point, but-
easier lot to develop, or maybe they just wanna be nice because we just
Wow.
gave them a lot of grant money. I don't know,
I also think, I know they feel that way, but they're also doing
they're doing.
a run of good projects.
Yeah, oh, there's nothing against, yes, for
I
sure.
think they will come around to it, especially once those Third Street projects and hopefully the Bruce Street projects are.
They're done with Third Street, so if you know someone that wants them.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah. No, develop, I mean, they're done as they are now.
Oh,
Really?
yeah.
They wanna get rid of them en masse, I think, you don't talk about this thing,
They just came to us with those new Liberty Street plans, is it, they just wanna be ground up, not
Yeah,
rehab.
they would like, they want the city to release and my understanding is the city said no, but maybe if Ramona doesn't know, I don't know who said no then.
There was one building that they've been saying for a while to us that maybe they would want the land bank to take because it has like,
That's gonna
like a
ask.
3
Those are-
unit or something.
There's the 3 Benny properties and then 2 city properties, is that the right
Yeah.
accounting?
Right.
And they want, can they sell all 5 together? And I think the city is like, well, we gotta know who you're selling to. and
Yeah.
We're
Right.
not sure if we want that
Yeah.
and,
They're big projects, I mean,
right, so that's why I think they want it for one person, but I don't,
could the land bank funding.
I mean, we
Those
just
are-
provided $129,000 for them to do remediation there.
225, 223.
Yeah,
But could those come back into the land bank fold?
I mean, yeah.
In theory.
ostensibly,
I almost
yeah.
feel like the land, and that might be something that the city agrees to, that the land bank is even at a minimum better qualified to find a third party
Way more.
than
Yeah.
Habitat, right?
Yeah.
Even if no one touches it again, having them come back, but I think they need they may need cash though too, so I don't know.
Yeah.
The whole thing's complicated, but it might be worth the conversation.
I'm supposed to meet with them next, soon.
Who's do they have an interim?
They have an
there?
interim,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's wonderful, she
Maureen.
came from, yeah, she came
Oh,
from
really?
Dutchess, she retired from Dutchess County Habitat, and then we scooped her up here interim,
wow.
but my understanding is they haven't even started the permanent search.
We saw plans for two of them,
Yeah, they're-
probably like within the last few months.
They're moving forward, yeah, they have, because they have a huge, I mean, in a positive slash negative, but they have a huge wait list of people who are
Yeah.
like minimally, qualified and in the program, and they would love to find housing for, so the need is definitely there.
It's just
the
those
cost,
buildings are
yeah.
too.
I think it's
Yeah.
easier for them to do the ground up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's, yeah, so for the asbestos at the 72, 76, 78, we are working with Quest on that as well.
Is 74 something that is, I haven't asked, but like clearly they're not doing anything.
They were for a long time, and then asking what the city was, when are you gonna start, they were right, I think that's something to follow back up with, the building department and see where, one thing that has done excellent is have your building permits expire.
Yeah.
Which means a project like this has to come back in and say what you're doing and show new plans, which I think is actually helpful. Someone like the land bank, it sucks, because you have to, but something like this, if you, walking away, it's a fair point,
They are selling everything.
Oh, they're selling,
I
okay.
mean, but this building hasn't been listed, but everything that is like, not pretty immediately habitable, it seems like they're trying to get rid of,
Okay.
which would be great.
Mhm.
If
Who are they?
Seraphim,
Oh, it is.
So they
I didn't
are
know that.
Seraphim?
yeah.
What
that
about
kind of
the building on the corner of Broadway and right here?
Yeah,
Done.
that's
Yeah.
them.
Is it sold?
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
Right here?
Oh, did it close?
No, it didn't.
Oh, no,
close,
no,
but they're
none of
done
these
with
are
it.
selling,
done
they're
with
all
it, yeah.
listed for like,
Their issue is that, my understanding is their issue is they played this game, how to flip a city, didn't work. Where they, sorry, I had to take a little take, was that because their whole game was to push up the market. So they bought them at these high prices because they were trying to say the market's actually here, but the market never caught up with them. So they're in it, they're selling them at at no profit, but they still can't even, they would take a huge loss to sell at the market, is my understanding.
well, and they have investors now
Who
who
are in
believe
it
that
for
there's
that
value
right.
at a certain level that
Yeah.
there isn't. And, a building like that has been destroyed.
Yeah,
You
they
can-
took the roof off of that.
You
Yeah,
can save
I
it
mean,
now, but the
if-
building was in much better
If they
shape
don't
for
come
this.
in and
Yeah.
do something, it's gonna collapse.
Right. So that's, I mean, I know they put a lot into it. Chris, I think, did the plans
Mhm,
for it,
yeah.
but it seems like a project they are not gonna complete. And
Yeah, I mean, so who do we contact?
well, they retained an agent on Long Island. I can get you the info for them. And they are asking way higher prices than is remotely possible, but so that one's not listed, but like the one next to where House Parts was on Broadway started at 800, then it was 700. They cut it this week down to, I think, 5 something.
Oh, really?
So-
The black one?
Yeah,
Wow.
but I mean, the building is
How
unsafe.
did they get it painted that color?
They
Is
didn't,
that
they just did.
Yeah,
the historic district or is it?
They
they
didn't
just
get
did it,
that
and then
approval.
what do you?
Yeah.
Put it back, and then it's a threat, then it goes to court.
Oh,
That's,
Is that a 6-unit building?
I think it's pretty big, I don't know if it's 6. But they really did destroy it, unfortunately, so. Like to have that contiguous run of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would be just more valuable.
Another thing that maybe to breach with them, because I don't know how their finances are structured, they may be facing high tax, but I mean, it may be worth offering. We have a benefit of the value, whatever stupid value we can come to.
Oh, like as a write-off.
Is a write-off,
Yeah.
right?
I'll get you the agent's info.
Yeah, put it out there where they don't get anything and then.
I mean, yeah, it's all over town that they've listed these things, like the beautiful house on Grant that keeps not selling because it's such a huge project.
which one is that?
With the green porch, it's a big white house.
It was Thomas
Dodd
Dodds,
owned,
right? Yeah.
He sold it to them in the first round of things they bought and
Oh, that
tried
one,
to sell it
okay.
for,
Next to the one that Rosemary had.
yeah. But all these things
They
take
never
huge
finished the
investment
project, yeah.
and you can't you know,
Wow, yeah, that one's just sitting.
Yeah.
Actually, I used to live at 185 next to it.
it's an amazing stretch. But, yeah, the more you let the building sit, like, they're not getting more valuable.
So, yeah.
Great. All right, moving forward, 143 Washington.
So this, was supposed to close in April. And this is this project that, we were ready to, have them close on their construction loan, and we had money that we were giving them. And then at the last minute, they had brought in their GC as a co-developer to help, I guess, with the numbers, and he, at the last minute, was not willing to do some of the things that the construction lender, CPC, was requiring, and so they wound up dropping him.
As a GC or as an investor?
Both, well, I think it was unclear,
Okay,
but then, so they had originally gone to Baxter, like, when they applied with us, it was Baxter, and they kept on going back to Baxter for new numbers, and the numbers kept on going up and up and up. And that's why they went to a different GC. And so now they went back to Baxter to get numbers again, which are still too high. And so they're trying to do some more value engineering, and
Did we discuss a timeline with them?
I mean, it kept on being like, well, they're about to
Can't have that many.
Yeah,
kids.
but they can't
Yeah.
have a road.
I mean, there's gonna be I know,
It feels like, how many years?
yeah.
yes, I mean, I keep on saying that we approve them at the same time that we approve 104 Washington,
That
which
is true, but he's close.
now
isn't he?
they're in a different place, but neither of them have broken ground,
But
but
he's close, we don't,
what?
104 Washington, we don't own.
We
Yeah.
sold the
Oh, right. So at
property,
least
but
it's not-
Philippe's close, I mean, he
Yeah.
got his tax pilot and shit.
yeah, no, they're in a different, but I'm just saying, it's like hard to be a little bit,
Well, how much longer though?
Yeah,
well, so hopefully, they're gonna work that out
Well, can we
imminently.
just say this, can we agree that by the end of the year?
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
fair.
that's realistic and, then it goes
Yeah.
back on the market.
I agree.
Yeah, so they're getting the state funding, and it's a small building PLP fund and. So that's what's happening with that. I did refer them to Lumley and Wolf, who they had a conversation with, and. Lumley is willing to step in if they're, and I think that they might get a better number from them, because they're trying to. They want more work here.
Well, aren't prices going up?
They're
They
not
don't seem
going
to be
down.
going down.
Going down, right?
At least my house is, that's for sure.
So that's 143 Washington.
They said that inflation came in mild this last reading, but they expect it
Really?
to spike
Really?
with the next.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, 146 South Street.
So this is the reverter action. We now are waiting for court mediation. Our attorney said they haven't heard back, and they're gonna talk to the court again, and the owner. The owner's representative, so that's where we're with that. In the meantime, they seem to be doing all of this unpermitted work on the property suddenly, including putting in like vinyl windows and
Vinyl
a
windows.
random door, and I know they put in utilities
Seems like there are people who are there at night.
and sleeping there.
Ugh.
So, but they never, I mean, they might
don't
have
have
gotten
state
a
hours.
permit initially when we first sold, like some kind of demo permit.
Yeah, at
remember
that time we
seeing-
were doing, before you got other approvals, you could get these demo permits, luckily that's.
That's not
as
happening
well.
now. So but aside from that, I don't think they've gotten any kind of city approval to do anything. So if people are living there, that's like very problematic.
Should we let,
Cause I saw what the building looked like, I mean, it was one of the worst.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let them know tomorrow,
Okay.
especially if the occupants,
Yeah, I didn't realize.
I mean, I don't know how
I've
many
seen people going
utility
in and
hooked
out.
up, but yeah, I've seen people going in
Yeah.
and out also, which seems like,
Yeah,
Crazy, I accidentally lost power, lost electric, so wasn't shut off a building that we needed it on for, and oops, I'm going through.
Yeah.
I had to turn it on, it's like all parties of the willing, it's crazy.
Yeah.
People get it like randomly turned on and like, yeah, but, okay.
I don't know if they have water.
Alright, so we did, number 6 we have done,
Yeah, so that's all I have.
although do you have items for executive session?
No.
Oh, it's just listed in case. so
I guess I don't have
That's fine,
to put on there.
excellent,
Do you have anything,
on
John?
the order?
I don't. I'll see you next week though, I guess.
Yes. Looking forward to it.
That's
We're
the land
going to
bank?
Land Bank, New York Land Bank Association convening.
Where are you guys meeting?
Oswego.
Oswego.
Sorry, Oswego.
Is that Oswego? I don't know. I got corrected last year.
Oh.
Or, is that right, John?
I was feeling,
Kim says it in a particular way, I can't repeat. It's like
No, I think you
Oswego.
just, yeah, I think that's exactly what you just said.
Oswego.
Oswego.
But it would be helpful for you to present a little bit about what Newburgh is doing on those tax foreclosures, because we're having a lot of problems with other communities. And it sounds like Newburgh is not afraid, I guess, and is doing it, in my opinion, that's one of the right ways to do it. But there are a lot of communities out there that are afraid, and the fear has just caused them to stop. And the land banks are not getting a lot of properties.
Oh,
I'll note the other thing, so there were 4 that were for nominal value, at least one of those, it clearly abandoned, no one's been doing anything with it. As soon as it was clear that people weren't paying the taxes day 1, because we've taken year 3, we started abandonment proceedings too, so we're also trying to get in front of the in-rem filing.
I see.
If there is a clear abandonment path. So that's another thing, because then there's no.
That's the Article 9.
Exactly,
Article
correct.
19.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think also, Newburgh does more Article 19 than other places.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to share that, I can't really go into, all I know is what was just shared.
Not all I know.
Yeah.
You know, so surface level.
Great.
All right, do I have a motion to end the meeting?
yes. Make a motion to end the meeting.
A second?
second.
There you go. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
See you next
See you
week.
next week.
Okay, take care.
Like, he'll give like a long presentation about the